Hey, everybody. Welcome again to Crossing the Line with Greg Heym. Thank you for joining us. It's great to do these on Monday morning. It starts our week off right. We have the man, Scott Nadler, here. What's up, Scott? How you doing?
What's up, Greg? It's good to be back.
Now you got this hat in front of you, so you're promoting something. So
it's our brand, our social media brand, Loan Daddy. I had another name before this.
Okay.
And then our marketing team, we would go on the street sometimes and ask people questions about mortgages and housing. And we did one that was really fun with a pilot. And after we filmed it, the guy said, "What's your handle? How do I follow you?" And it was at the time, Scotty does know. And I had to spell it for him like 5 times. He just could not figure it out.
It's too long.
So then
you lose interest before you even finish it.
Exactly. So then we sat down, and one of the marketing people said, "I've got a great idea. I'm not going to take credit for it. I'm going to give it to him, Ross." He was like, "How about Loan Daddy?" And he lives in L.A. and there's an attorney out there who's called the Lemon Daddy, and there are billboards everywhere
for Lemon Daddy.
For Lemon Daddy. So
what does he go after, like lemon cars? Is that
exactly
okay?
Exactly. Yeah. So
See?
we said we'll be the Loan Daddy, and it stuck.
So
and now we have merch.
So what would be my handle then, you think? Handle, it's like CBs. Remember in the old days? You don't remember, you're too young. But you had CBs, you had a handle. Like Bandit.
Yeah.
So what should be my handle? Should we ask Ross maybe to come up with something?
Ross is very good. Man, Crossing the Line, Greg Heym.
I don't know. Let's think about this later. You got it. Lineman.com. Sure. Or something like, I don't want to think about it. I'm always skeptical of marketing people, but then again, that's stuff I don't want to do on my own anyway, which is a lot like data.
Right on Heym.
Right on Heym or on time
something
with
like
Heym. I don't know, something like that.
Exactly.
Lena's already laughed more than she usually laughs the entire show.
We're hilarious.
A coffee before I came to the office, and I have another one.
You normally do. Oh, okay.
What's it?
She's got a pep in her step.
What's in the coffee? All right. Well, we have Ray and Lena here as always. It's March 31st today. National Crayon Day. I wasn't excited.
I was thinking it's the end of a quarter, but you want to go crayons.
Couldn't. You remember when we did the show on the 10th? It was National Mario Day.
Mm-hmm.
My son told me why that's the case.
Oh, okay. We're going back.
March 10th, MAR10 looks like Mario. Leave it to a Gen Z or a 17-year-old.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So crayons today.
See, we follow up on things. Now, I don't know why today's National Crayon Day. I don't really care. My son was past the crayons long enough. Yet I still have them in my house because when my younger nieces come over or, just in case one of our neighbors brings a little kid over, I got to have sidewalk chalk and crayons available.
I remember when they added the sharpener to the crayon box. That was a game changer. I do.
I remember there's only like 8 crayons in the box.
Was it really? Are you sure? I feel like we had boxes that didn't have sharpeners, and then one day they brought them, and they did.
I don't know.
Maybe they just couldn't afford them beforehand.
It sounds like you were getting fake crayons.
Those cheap crayons. All right. So how was the weekend, Scott? Was it good?
The weekend was great. This is not the norm for me, but Friday night I was in like a $20 million apartment at this dinner. And then Sunday night, I was in this $40 million apartment.
So you were in $60 million worth of apartments this weekend. Did not invite us.
I got the invite. I wasn't hosting, Greg.
That doesn't mean I can't be a plus one. What the? No, I was actually busy all weekend. So.
Honestly, I was so busy. I probably could have snuck you in there.
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful apartments. The one I was telling you about.
Yeah.
The views of Central Park were absolutely incredible. It's floor to ceiling, and
this is how this guy lives.
This is not how I live.
He goes to foreign countries to drink.
This is not.
He's always coming back from Florida.
I started with this is not the norm. It just happened to be.
You're like the James Bond of the the business, I think.
That is not accurate.
Maybe this should be Loan
Crossing
007 or something
Fans.
like that.
How was your weekend, Greg?
Well, Friday was
enough about me.
Well, it can't live up to that. Other than Friday was my 27th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
So I went out to
Congratulations.
dinner
27 years. That's a long time.
I know. And you think about it, we started dating significantly before that. So it's been a long time. I've noticed since high school. Our pictures are next to each other in our high school yearbook.
So do people ask you for, what's your secret?
No, I try not to tell them. I think that one thing I've learned, and I think if people ask me why marriages end in divorce, I think it's you expect things to get better. With
So
something
you
you
just
don't
expect them to get worse?
No, but anything you don't like about a person, you just have to accept that it's not going to change. And I may have a fault or two myself, but it's funny because you sit there and always say, you have to have date night with your wife. Date night with your wife. It's like, I'm not paying to date my wife. Like, I mean, come on. She should be paid. No, it's interesting, but half the time we talk about our son. By the way, I have an announcement. I don't have any gear because the hat didn't come yet. My son has committed to Buffalo.
Wow.
So he'll be at the University of Buffalo, majoring in business administration.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
We're already getting him going on the beard and the long hair he's going to need to deal with the cold there. But that was, he found.
What are they? They're the Buffalo
Bulls.
The Bulls. That's right.
But they've been around a lot longer than the football team. So then why didn't they take Bills? That's what I don't get if it was available. I don't know. It's a little surprising. But what do I know? The two colleges I went to changed their mascots immediately and their names immediately after I left. So what do I know? At least they've been the Bulls forever and probably won't have to change that name.
All right.
So that's good.
So an exciting weekend for you.
Son.
You got the announcement for your son.
Yeah, we had a
anniversary.
We had a 60th birthday party yesterday at Gusto Divino. A lot of jazz musicians there, and it was fun. And I was happy with the way I played, which anytime I was playing with my guitar teacher's son, who's also really good, and we were trading licks back and forth, and I just kept going show off every time he played. So anyhow, you guys' weekends were okay? That's all right. That's what I need from you guys. I see the coffee buzz is already wearing off on Lena. All right. Well, before we get to the actual stuff, we have to remind you that we're coming here from Studio 1873, conveniently located right outside my office. But we have a message from the Loan Daddy people themselves, our lovely sponsor, CrossCountry Mortgage.
I'm Scott Nadler, one of the nation's top mortgage originators, and I'm here to help you take control of your mortgage. Ready to lower your payments or pull out cash for life's big moments? I've got the solutions you need. With over a decade of experience, I'll make your refinance a breeze from start to finish. Don't wait. Call me at CrossCountry Mortgage today, and let's start saving you money.
Hey, it's Stephen Bailey from Roadway Moving and Storage. As an official moving partner of Brown Harris Stevens, we know that your clients deserve more than just a move. At Roadway Moving and Storage, we turn moving into an experience they will love. From specialized services to a white glove treatment, we've got it all covered. When you choose Roadway, you're choosing a peace of mind for your clients. Plus, our referral program is the most rewarding in the industry. Want to learn more? Shoot me an email at steven@roadwaymoving.com or visit roadwaymoving.com.
All right, we're back, Scott Nadler, and I guess there's a lot of stuff coming out. It's almost like a daily experience. But the PCE numbers, we always say that the personal consumption expenditure data is the last word on inflation and retail sales because it comes out the last. So the Fed looks at the core personal consumption expenditures price index, let's just call it core PCE, for their reading on inflation was up 0.4% in February and was 2.8% higher than a year ago. Now, that doesn't sound bad, being where the CPI has been, but both those figures were higher than expected. And that's all you need to set off a panic, right?
Yeah, mortgage rates started to come down a little bit.
Right. So this is the thing that was surprising. The 10-year went down.
Correct.
And so when we sum this up, I'm going to mention something about that. But, one thing that jumped out at me was, it's like, wait a minute, didn't CPI come in below forecast? PCE came in above forecast. So what gives? And then you have to remember they're constructed differently. The PCE is based on much more complete data. It takes into account changes in people's behavior if they're buying different things. And it also doesn't put as much emphasis on housing. So
I think also if you looked at the unrounded numbers, it was closer to what the estimates were as well.
See, that's the nerd thing to do. People will go, I want to see the unrounded number.
I can nerd out on this stuff sometimes too, yeah.
That makes you feel better. But if you remember, core PCE, core CPI year over year is up 3.1%. So again, a lot of that has to do with housing being a lot more influential on that data. So here's some other findings. So that 0.4% monthly increase is the highest monthly increase since January of 24. You say, well, that's not that long ago, but inflation was moving in the right direction. Now it's not.
Right.
Consumer spending was also up 0.4%, slightly below forecast. But remember, retail sales were only up 0.2%, so a little better than expected. And this was like the most surprising thing is personal income was up 0.8% last month. So, and that was double the estimate.
Right.
So what does all this mean? Well, here's what I think, and then you jump in. I don't even know why I say the words Fed rate cuts, because just forget about it. You're running 2.8%. You're almost 1% above the Fed's target. So why? That's all we need to say about that. So then the thing you noticed was the 10-year Treasury started falling.
Mm-hmm.
And, why is that? Well, mainly because this is another sign. You add it to the other data we've seen, the weak consumer spending, the tariff mania that's going on. It's right up there with Beatlemania, isn't it? Only not as fun. That would make you more pessimistic about the future. And I guess people think the inflation thing will get worked out if we have a recession. So, that would be my explanation, that the concern now is more about a slowing economy than inflation ramping up all of a sudden. It's not coming down, but it's not going up a lot. It's kind of stuck in this range. So that said, that when you have inflation reports running higher than expected, eventually mortgage rates go up too. Like that's bound to happen. A lot of that will determine on what happens this Friday when the jobs numbers come out. That could be a killer either way. So I don't know. Maybe I have to stay in bed that morning. And, how are consumers still spending? Well, their incomes rose twice as fast as prices. So that's how they've been spending.
Right.
But as we know, the credit card debt is a high level. Now we have a large number of them are in default on their student loan payments because of all the legal stuff that has happened. We might as well mention it now. You talked about a big increase in the percent of mortgages that are refis.
Mm-hmm.
And who would refi when rates, are higher than they want? People that need money.
Specifically, cash out refinances.
Right.
Yeah. I think 28% of applications right now are cash out refinances. That's a big number. And
we were hearing that a lot of people were starting to do it because they'd just given up waiting for the rate they like.
Mm-hmm.
But it certainly would make sense that they are tapped out, right?
There's a lot of equity in people's homes. And if their assets are being depleted, they need some cash. It's in the home. So
they call loan daddy and
they call the loan daddy. Exactly.
They run to daddy. Is there a loan mommy? Do we have one?
Working on it.
Okay.
Working on it. Yeah. Stay tuned.
Well, see, that's why you have to watch a show. We're going to have a different cliffhanger. There.
Exactly. The trend of inflation, though, to your point, is not in our favor right now.
No.
I think the 12-month year over year is 2.8%, but 6 month is 3%, and the 3-month is 3.5%.
Right.
So that 3-month run rate at 3.5% is much higher than what the Fed would be,
and anyway,
hoping for there.
Any way you slice it, it comes up peanuts, as they used to say in the Snickers commercials. Whether you look at CPI, PPI, PCE, any of these, initials.
So many of these reports
it's
right now
are the same story.
But so many of these, the data that is coming out now, it's just a mixed bag of so many different things. And you think about people who are buying homes right now. Whenever you're going to look for a home, you're looking for certain things, right? Nothing's going to be perfect. But depending upon where you are in life, if you're a young couple, no kids, certain things might be important for you. And if you're expecting to have kids or you're an empty nester, then different things start to be important. So with all this data, it's like, what is the market focusing on? Is it inflation? Is it the labor market? And Austin Goolsbee.
Depends what time of the month it is, and when the data's coming out.
That's also true. So we talked about Austin Goolsbee last week. Didn't expect to talk about him again, but we're going to. One of the
fun
Fed
name
members.
to say.
So he talked about how you have to look at labor and inflation almost like your two kids, where you love both your kids, both are really important, but if one's out of line, that's the one you need to focus on a little bit more than the other. And it makes sense because there are different factors that you have to take into account here. And is it, so Friday we have the jobs numbers coming out.
Yeah.
It's a low number to begin with as far as what they're estimating. But
Well, I think, when I was in grad school, I had a advanced investment analysis professor who was saying, don't get so obsessed with trying to predict the number or figure out what it is.
mm-hmm.
Is it going up, down, staying the same?
Right.
Is it better, worse, or unchanged? That's all you need to get a feel for.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like forever that we were just seeing blow away jobs reports every month. And now that the forecasts are getting lower, you worry what would you rather have? A weaker than expected number, which would be good news for inflation, conceivably, because that would also probably do something to bring incomes down.
Mm-hmm.
We hear that people that are changing their jobs aren't really getting bigger increases than people that stay at their jobs now. But then again, we hear that the job openings data is still pretty strong. Claims for unemployment went down again and are still very low. But it's hard to know what to root for. We want people to get jobs. We want businesses to keep going. But, it's like a lot of people say the only way to get home prices down is a recession.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that in certain areas, like here in Manhattan, it was brutal from after the financial crisis ended to COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Because the economy was doing really well most of that time.
Right.
And no one's going to want to lower prices when the economy is growing and the stock market is doing what it's doing. But we do need a reset of prices, and it would also help reset rates.
Mm-hmm.
But again, do we feel terrible that we're rooting for slower than expected growth?
Right.
Well, we seem to be getting it anyway, and before we started rooting for it. So I don't know.
And that's part of the conversation that I have with so many buyers, where we'll say, bad news for you right now is great news, because that's going to start bringing interest rates down. We don't root for that overall. We don't want people to have less money, for people to not be employed, because that's bad for the housing market.
Right.
But in the short term, if someone's in the process right now, it's not the worst thing.
Well, and the stock market was brutal on Friday. The Dow down 700 points.
Yep.
The S&P 500's now been down 5 of the last 6 weeks. It's been very painful. Everything is negative for the year, and it's like, okay, let's get March over with, write it off. St. John's lost, that upset Greg. Let's just go on to the next month, and hopefully things. Look, the only thing that's going for me is the Yankees right now, because they've been phenomenal for 3 games. Torpedo bats can solve the world's problems. It reminds me of.
It's just a matter of time before someone recalls those bats.
Well, it reminds me of The Natural, when Roy Hobbs has his own bat and someone says it's loaded, and they weigh it and they go, it's legal, he can use it. They've done this with the torpedo bats. And Cody Bellinger said that when he was with the Cubs, they were looking at the bats. They decided not to go with that. Aaron Judge ain't using the bats. He had no problem hitting the ball 470 feet or whatever it was the other day. And that was only like his 7th furthest home run. I mean, it's like, wow. It's interesting to watch, although one of the people that is using him is Jazz Chisholm, who's hit 2 home runs yesterday and seems to be, discovering his inner Babe Ruth or something. I don't know.
Interesting looking bat for sure.
It's shaped like a torpedo, I guess is the best way to do it. All right. So before we move on to the next exciting part of Crossing the Line, where we get into even scarier things, let's take another break. Don't leave though. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
This beautiful set here at Studio 1873 is brought to you by the Everset. The Everset provides full-service staging and furniture rental solutions in the New York area. For more information, please visit us at staging.theeverset.com or email us at staging@theeverset.com to request a free proposal.
All right, so we got inflation data coming in higher than expected. That's bad. We've seen some signs of slowing consumer spending. The talk of recessions, tariffs, everything. So the March consumer confidence data came out, and basically it's about, they ask people about their outlook on their income, business and job prospects, that kind of thing. How you feeling? And there's like the current index and then the future conditions. Current conditions fell a little bit. It's still at a decent level. 92.9 is the index, but it was a 4th straight monthly decline. But for the most part, they're okay with the future. The present. What's the future when they get scared? So when they asked the respondents, where the economy is headed. The number they got was 65.2, the index, which is a 12-year low. And any reading below 80 basically means a recession's coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Paul Revere, the British are coming. So, again, you can understand why people feel that way because they're watching a stock market tank. The consumer spending data is soft. You're hearing how first quarter GDP is going to be negative, depending on if you look at the Atlanta Feds, or there was another consensus forecast that has it slightly negative.
Tariffs are in your face that it's going to ruin everything.
Liberation Day is just in 2 days. I don't know what to wear.
Yep.
It's thank goodness I actually found a website that has a tariff tracker because when I do these last week in research reports, I have to delete the articles like 3-4 times during the week because the tariffs are coming, they're not coming, they're coming, or maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. So now I just direct them to the tracker.
By the way, it would have been very confusing if they did it tomorrow on April 1st.
Right, and it's funny because tomorrow is the day we send our first quarter market reports to the media.
Yeah.
April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
And let's hope we don't fool them. That's not our intention. But so, we all can look in our personal lives of things. Maybe we're not going out to eat as much. Getting the generic Advil, as I tell my wife, because it works the same as Advil. They always survey pharmacists, like 98% of them buy the generic version of everything. Mm-hmm. But my good buddy Scott sent me an article. He complains about me sending him articles he doesn't read anyway.
It's true. It's accurate.
About lesser known indicators. So we have some here.
I found this really interesting.
And please, Ray and Lena, jump in on this because some of these are pretty funny. And some of them are obvious. So we have the snack index.
So these are indicators that show a recession is coming, but things that you wouldn't see in the headlines. Basically.
I think some of them make sense. Some of them are just funny.
Yep.
And some of them are like, that's I got to look out
Makes
for
you
that.
think, yeah.
Obviously, people are buying fewer snacks, and other
the snack
types of
index.
foods.
Yep.
I mean, since I've lost weight, I'm not buying more snacks, but that's not because I'm worried about recessions, because I'm worried about inflation as if my stomach inflating again. This is one that's interesting. The mini alcohol bottle indicator.
Yep.
People cut back on alcohol purchases. So it's not that they go steal all those bottles from their hotel rooms or their flights, but they're actually, you can buy those. I mean, I've seen people in the liquor store buying those little bottles.
Does it mean they're drinking less?
Maybe it's like buying the variety pack. When you remember they had the cereal variety packs when you were young?
They're just buying more of these small bottles. Because I would think if the economy's not doing great and someone likes drinking, it might force them to drink a little bit more.
See, I could see like people saying, I'm buying the smaller bottles because with everything going on, I'll drink too much. So I'd rather not have as much in the house.
Right.
But maybe I'm being a little too scientific on that. I don't know. All right. So this one is interesting because this goes counter, so to speak. The lipstick index.
Mm-hmm.
See, did you know there was a lipstick? And actually, the pioneer is one of the Lauder family. Leonard Lauder came up with this. See, there you go. You didn't think I knew this. All right, so.
Wait for it.
There's an inverse relationship with lipstick sales and the health of the economy. So as the economy gets worse, lipstick sales actually go up. And the reason that's given is that consumers consider lipstick a, quote, affordable luxury. Like that's one thing you're not going to stop using, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And you want to show on the outside that like you're not scared. It's like, hey, you're not being very convincing. It's like a gun to her head or something like that when she said that. It's like, oh no, everything is fine. Like I have a gun to my back when I do this podcast, but
I would think, I would think if people are spending less on clothing and shoes and other makeup,
but keep up.
They want to continue to spend money and look a certain way. So lipstick is one of those things.
All right, here's where we start to get into a little bit of trouble.
We're not
right?
wearing lipstick today, but if things get worse, you never know.
This also can show how men and women behave differently and how lazy men are. So we have the lipstick index. So women are going to keep using lipstick, and men who want to wear them. Kiss is getting back together, so they're stocking up on their makeup, right? So women keep saying, then we have the men's answer to all this, which is the underwear index. So men will stop buying new underwear since it's a garment most people don't see on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't wear pants here, but nobody can see it. So so you can't judge by that. But I don't know that that's true, but it's an interesting concept. And no one can, do our socks have holes in them? How lazy do men get when it becomes, harder to make ends meet? And we just don't care enough about our appearance, Scott Nadler. What's your answer to that?
Wow.
Well, I'm going to ask jet setting, luxury apartment Nadler over here, the loan daddy, what he's going to skimp on. I'm only going to trim my beard twice a month. That's
I think it makes a lot of sense. I think, it's such a guy thing to say, let me just work with what I have here.
Yeah.
Guys are resourceful.
See, that's why I picked a bad time to lose weight, because I had to buy new clothes, but, it's for good reasons.
Right.
All right. Now, this one's also going to get us into trouble. So, because we're going to ask Lena what
you may need to edit this part.
Now, is it the hemline index? So apparently this was developed during the 1920s, which were called the Roaring 20s, right? The whole argument is that skirts and dresses get shorter when the economy is doing well and longer in a downturn. Now, you would think, well, maybe because people don't want to spend the money to get them tailored when things are bad. But no, they feel that when things are good, people feel bolder. And maybe that hemline goes up a little bit. I don't know if you've ever given this much thought. I know I hadn't.
I definitely haven't.
I mean, does that mean the 70s and the 60s were the happiest time ever? Because wasn't that the era of the miniskirts?
Yeah, for sure.
So women were happy then? Because they didn't seem happy a lot of the time.
Discovered some cute skirts and we're
Okay.
It could just be overall that people feel more confident.
Yeah, they're saying
and I
that,
think when you feel more confident, you'll dress a certain way. Going back to the underwear for a second.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that guys aren't doing laundry.
No, nobody said.
It doesn't mean you're not doing less
we're
laundry.
gross, but we're not that gross.
Right. It just means you're doing more laundry, actually.
Which only do is just washing them once a month instead of every time we wear it.
Right.
All right, here's the one that's going to get us in trouble. The stripper index. Now, I read a couple articles on this because I needed to find out.
You could laugh
more.
about this, but there's a lot of truth in what I think.
There's a common belief that exotic
Strippers
dancers,
know. Yeah.
I'm one of the first people to know. They've been known to know about stock trades and takeovers and stuff like that before anybody finds out. If you've seen The Big Short.
The Big Short features a whole scene.
That's one of the first group of people they interview.
The strippers, yep.
Because they hear things. But, this one is obvious that when the tips start to go down, they view it as a sign of reduced discretionary spending, because that is discretionary spending. We don't need to go to those clubs. But those are some signs that people look at. I'm not going to go try to verify these. I'm not going to ask women about their hemlines because it might get smacked. It's been too cold to wear skirts probably and dresses because, though we had a great day on Saturday. Yeah. And then it goes right back to being the Yankee game is like 40 something degrees yesterday. So, and there's also like the young adults have their own, but they do this jokingly. They talk about seeing more commercials for online colleges, fake eyelashes, like people not bothering. It said there's one of them mentioned a skincare company selling eggs. Is that like a cheap way to get like a facial eggs? But eggs cost so much money. So I don't know. So anyway, these kids
reduce the price on one service and then throw in the eggs as like an add-on. I don't know.
Do you get those eggs the way you want? Can you get them sunny side up or poached?
These are great questions.
Is that possible?
We'll have to get back to you next week.
It's funny. They claim they're not serious. This is just like, gallows humor, as they may call it. But remember, these young adults, a lot of them, their childhoods were during the Great Recession. So they have seen bad economic times.
I'll also say at times like this, opportunities present themselves. And I think you see people who can take advantage of an economy that is in, I don't want to say chaos, but is faltering a bit. So if you have some of these influencers online to talk about how to, shop for makeup or apply makeup,
how to do your own nails
at an affordable price, those are people that end up making a lot of money from their YouTube channels or Instagram accounts because there's a market. There are people that are thinking the same thing, or how to go out, how to have a great date night and at
tell me, I need help with this one. No, it's funny because one of the more famous stories of something bad turning into something good was Michael Bloomberg was fired from his job on Wall Street and started this company called Bloomberg, which is doing okay last I checked.
He's going to make it.
Well, he's already made it, I guess. I don't know what his plans are I know he gives away a lot of money, which is nice. All right, so we have to take one more break, and then we're going to get to the happy news because enough of this scary stuff already. Although it's probably better for ratings.
That was a fun segment, though.
We have to look a little more worried. We got to look a little more disheveled. I know it's going to be hard for you. For me, that's easy. Anyhow, we'll be right back after this break.
What do you really need to know about buying or selling a home? First, it's serious business. And it's complicated. There's a lot of money on the table, and emotion too. You need an agent who knows the ropes. So, whether you're buying or selling your home, work with professionals who have a mastery of the craft.
All right, and we're back. I work on my we're back voice. All right, so I promised happy news. You know, it's not necessarily happy for everybody, but, you know, whatever. It's good news.
Okay.
So pending home sales, which are based on contract signings, were up in February by a whopping 2%. No, we also saw this with existing home sales, which are when they close. So it shows that the past was pretty good and maybe the future will pick up, although they're still down 3.6% from a year ago. But we're going to forget that part. We're going to talk about that they're up in February because it's surprising given that rates have hovered near 7%, right? Because these people signing contracts now would have called Loan Daddy up probably 2 months ago, maybe or something like that.
But still down 0.25% from where they were 12 months ago. So
no, more than that. Yeah, 3.6% year over year they're down.
Yeah.
But now, and they're still well below historical levels. So, but we're looking at the direction of things that are going, right? So what are you seeing in terms of, you know, we talked about this before, that mortgage rates have been falling, but not significantly. And then we've had 1 or 2 weeks where they've gone back up again, and they're still sitting. I think the last week's average was 6.65%, I think, for conforming mortgages. But do you see, outside of the refi, cash out ones, do you see?
I'm actually not even seeing a lot of cash out refinances, but we got an email on, it must have been Tuesday or Wednesday last week, from a manager, and the subject line was, "What slowdown?" ? And it showed like all of our numbers for March, and like it was way better than you would have expected. So I think, as we've been talking about here, rates being steady is keeping people in the game. Rents have also increased as well. So people that have rents that are coming due are thinking maybe now is a good time to buy. So activity has been definitely higher than what we would have expected. For sure.
We saw, you know.
Also on the on we keep talking about weakness in the economy, and that translates to interest rates starting to fall a little bit.
And nervous sellers.
So those same people that are apprehensive about what's happening in the market, if you're thinking about buying a home, you're looking at that now. If you're educated and you're working with, you know, a good real estate agent, an attorney, and a mortgage lender, and they're telling you that, hey, this bad news for you as a potential home buyer in the short term is a good thing, then all this bad news that they're seeing, they're looking at that as like, all right, this is good news for me because now I'm going to see interest rates drop. Yeah. So that's keeping people in the game.
You know, 2 episodes ago, I talked about embracing the chaos. You know, that's your friend. You know, you have a situation where sellers might have been
that
on.
Could be your rule.
Well,
that could be the Greg Heym rule. We were looking for
it. Doesn't sound official economic-ish, you know, kind of thing. You stole the.
I'm trying to help you out here.
I know you. All right, Loan Daddy. We'll talk about that later. Let's call him LD for short. Is that going to stick? Probably not. Loan Daddy's much funnier. By the way, NAR is also forecasting mortgage rates to average 6.4% this year and 6.1% next year. So that's not a lot of change. If they're saying it's still going to be over 6 at the end of 26. That's. Does that frighten you?
No, because you're still going from 6.7, 6.8 to 6.1. It's still a nice jump.
And you're
I don't
still
think you want
almost
to
2% lower than the historical average. So that's another thing. I know it's hard to think of, but people do lose sight of that.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was good news.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially on top of the existing home sales, and new home sales kind of rebounded. So it shows the market right now is busy. Inventory helps, and maybe we'll feel like it's more like spring if we get a couple more days. Like
there would be a lot of early payoffs also if rates drop way too quickly. We're going to have everyone refinance, and then lenders who are holding onto loans where you're expecting a certain amount of payments, you're going to have all those loans refinance very, very quickly, which lenders don't want.
I understand that, but we're here. We're here for the people.
I'm here for the people as well.
Yes, you are.
I agree.
Okay. Well, they're all your children, apparently, Loan Daddy. So there you go. All right. So this was another bit of news, and we wait for this news every year, and it seems to come out later and later in March. We always, especially here in New York, we're always laser focused on Wall Street bonuses, because that is just a huge engine, Wall Street, of everything. Wall Street jobs support 2 to 3 jobs each, and are a huge part. Not people think about New York City, they forget what a huge part of New York State's revenue stream they are. But $47.5 billion in 2024. $47.5 billion. That's 34% higher than last year.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And that's great news for not just New York City, but New York State.
We've been seeing this also.
And a lot of these people buy second homes
Yep.
in other parts of the country or out east in the Hamptons. So, we're jealous by this, though, right? We're all saying 47.5. So how much money is 47? Well, it's 47. But so I like to do this. One of the things that's interesting is, so $47.5 billion is enough to buy every home for sale in Manhattan right now and still have about $22 billion left over. So you could almost buy every home for sale twice.
Wow.
If you really wanted to. But that would be a little over the top. And so on average per worker, $244,700. That's a very nice bonus.
Wow.
Yes. So we're all jealous. I'm actually sending a resume right now while I'm doing this. I'm not looking at any notes. So how do they pay out so much money? And you think about it, 23 was a great year for stocks. The S&P was up over 20%, and that continued this year. Well, their profits went up 90% last year. How does that happen? I don't know. Maybe they're just that lucky.
Yeah.
It's all about the mix of what businesses they have and how well they're doing. But their profits rose from $26.3 billion to $49.9 billion. So you see that a huge amount of their profits get paid in bonuses.
Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing this also because most people will get their bonus either end of 2024 or early 2025. Let's say they get it in January or February. So as we're speaking with new prospects, one of our questions is, are you getting a bonus? When are you expecting to receive the bonus? And bar none, I mean, whether you're in tech, whether you're in finance, whether you're, we have some lawyers.
Not I didn't even mention economists.
I didn't get there yet.
Okay,
Greg. But they're all talking about their bonuses being more than what they would have expected.
Right,
So
and
they've what most will say, they've beat their target.
And this was being talked about as early as September, that they knew this was going to be big.
Yeah.
And this is all counted based on taxes paid. So that's how the New York State Controller gets these numbers. But here's a couple more tidbits just about how important Wall Street still is. Now, they're a very small percentage.
I thought you were going to say how much $47.5 billion.
No, I've run out of things. But I think it's less than 3% of the employment here in New York City is Wall Street. But again, their importance to the state is something that doesn't. So Wall Street accounts for 19% of all of New York State's tax collections each year. So almost 20% of their tax income comes from Wall Street, which is amazing. Now, here in New York City, they only count for 7% because, property tax helps subsidize New York City more than anything. That's their biggest source of revenue, not income tax. Whereas the state, they don't levy property tax, so they get that. So this will mean another $600 million more for the state and $275 million more for New York City in income tax than last year. So they've probably already spent that money tenfold. And one last number, that Wall Street is responsible for 18% of all the economic activity in New York City. Again, representing a very small percentage of employment. So just, put that in your hat and lend it.
Those are
I was going to
big
say
numbers.
Smoke it, but see, Lena gets it. If Ray was listening, he might have got it, but he's taking notes. He's like, that's not funny. Don't repeat that joke. So, hopefully this will continue to get spent.
Yeah. And
the reason I do the Manhattan Apartments thing is we want them to buy,
of course,
Manhattan Apartments.
Yeah.
So now
I don't know if we want one. I don't know if we want one person spending all the money on all the apartments, but yes, we want people to spend.
Well, we especially in New York City, we would want this person to just buy subway rides for everybody because the MTA needs so much money. It's insane. They have a $60 billion capital plan they don't have funded. Congestion pricing is still up in the air. And they've gotten over $100 million the first 2 months of congestion pricing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. We could do a whole other thing on this, whether you like it or not. It is leading people more to mass transit. Traffic is down. It's pulling in about $50 million a month. And actually,
when the two of us and Ray were walking to lunch a couple weeks ago, Lena, you couldn't join us, unfortunately, but we did notice that it was really pleasant walking over where you did not see nearly as many cars as we typically would.
Right. Now, look, you never know how these things turn out. We had some transfer and mansion tax increases for the pandemic that people said was going to ruin the housing market. The SALT cap was going to ruin the housing market. Markets adjust. People adjust. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. We'll see what happens. There's a big fight going on between the governor and the president.
Yep.
We'll see how that goes. Yep. And again, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about Liberation Day and tariffs. And, that now there's some proposed tariffs against Russia. So, because they kind of seem to have reneged on an agreement. I don't know. I'm staying out of it. I'm not going to say it's above my pay grade. I just don't want to get into another fight. I got enough of my own. I don't need to get into that. But hopefully this stuff gets worked out soon. Liberation Day should be about us being liberated from worrying about tariffs, and new ones coming out of the woodwork. But
is this our first and last Liberation Day?
I don't know.
Is this become an annual thing?
I don't know. Right up there with Labor Day and other stuff.
Crayon Day,
Independence Day.
Yep.
Maybe someone write a song about it. Who knows? I have no idea.
Maybe you.
No. I've never been able to write. It's hard
Not
enough.
with that attitude.
Yes. Well, okay. Maybe I'll have somebody write a song for me to claim it's my own, like your logo there. I don't know. I know that's why you have marketing people.
I give him credit.
Well, that's good. No, look, coming up with solos, being able to improvise, that's my creative part of music.
Mm-hmm.
Taking 50-year-old jazz standards or 60 or 70-year-old jazz standards and trying to throw an interesting solo.
There you go.
Which I did last night. So that makes me feel good. But I don't know. I guess when you grow up, well, for me, I was born right after the Beatles broke up. When you grow up listening to the Beatles, you're like, I could never write songs like that. Like, why would I ever try to? That'd be embarrassing. I didn't know that the 90s would bring grunge, which I dislike so much. I think anybody could write that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now my son disagrees with me and says I'm an idiot because I didn't get into metal and grunge when I had the time, when I was growing up in the middle of it, but I just never been a huge fan.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to like some of it now because my son, does the Clockwork Orange. It makes me listen to it, and especially when he drives. I have to listen to that stuff. So it's okay. He can be a fan of that stuff. Look, I grew up listening to stuff made before I was born. Why should he be any different? It's kids for you.
A lot of those songs, though, in the 70s have more staying power.
We'll see.
For sure.
So clearly the Beatles have had staying power.
Yeah.
55 years that they broke up, they're probably still the biggest band in the world. I mean, they still sell a ridiculous amount. Oh, I'm sorry, have a ridiculous amount of streams because that's how You don't have Billboard charts anymore, so everything is measured by streams.
Right.
And on that happy note, I think that wraps it up for this week. Thank you, Scott Nadler,
Thank you, Greg Heym.
Loan Daddy. Thanks for the free hats. We appreciate them. See, me and Ray need that. You know, it's the hat
Gotcha.
index.
Yeah.
You know,
The free hat.
that and you know, I don't know, but as long as they're free hats. If we have to pay for the hats, then we're not saving. So that's.
They are free.
And thanks to Rena. It's called you Rena. That's it. Lena and Ray. See, Monday morning, every now and then things go off the rails. And thanks again for everybody for tuning into the show. We really do appreciate it. If you ever have any comments or questions or suggestions, CTL@bhsusa.com. And have a great week, everybody.